Hey everybody, happy Friday. This is Sports Fanatic News. I'm Joe Boric. This is a reaction to the trade of Phillies Galvis and the signing of Carlos Santana by the Philadelphia Phillies. First things first, the Phillies did finalize their contracts for 2 years with Tommy Hunter and Pat Neshek. Moving into the trade of Galvis. They traded Galvis to the San Diego Padres for Aniel de Los Santos. De Los Santos was the 13th ranked prospect in the Padres system. He's a pretty solid starting pitcher that, according to all accounts from the Padres websites and from all the reports, that he was a good starter throughout their entire system. But much like some other pitchers in the Phillies system, he's one of those guys that they don't know if he'll transcend into being a major league starter or a very good major league bullpen piece. But, of course, it's good to add good young pitching in any context, whether they will end up being a good third to fifth starter or a very good guy at the back end that carries you moving forward. Because, of course, Tommy Hunter being at 31 and Neshek being a 2-year gap is not going to be your future of your bullpen. So if he does have to move there, then that would work out fine as well. He is 21, about to turn 22 actually on Christmas Day. And he spent 2017 with AA San Antonio, where he went 10-6 and had a successful season in all of his starts. He posted a 3.78 ERA with 138 strikeouts in 150 innings. He started 24 of his 26 appearances, and according to accounts from the Padres website, continued to get better as the season went on, and likely this year he will play in AAA, Lehigh Valley, and then work his way up. Barring any injuries, you might not see him in the majors this year. His ETA is 2019, so he's close to the majors, but the only time we might see him this year is if he goes above and beyond in spring training or just dominates in the minors and someone's struggling on the major league staff or there is an injury. Now, as for Galvis going to the Padres have a very good up-and-coming prospect as a shortstop. So Galvis, much like the Padres have had stopgaps in recent years, now have Phillies Galvis. But the main difference is Phillies Galvis is still in his prime, whereas a lot of these other stopgaps obviously were not in the prime, like Eric Ibors of the world and Clint Barmas and Alexi Ramirez were guys that were past their prime and didn't have the same defensive metrics as Phillies Galvis has, where he adds a lot more to a team, that if he gets enough offense from him, he adds a couple wins to your team due to his defensive metrics. They have Fernando Tatis Jr., who's their number 4 prospect, who got continuously better in the minors, the Padres do, and he's expected to be their future shortstop. But Galvis is their bridge, and their very good bridge that they've been looking for to have until Jr. is ready to step into the league and be their future starting shortstop. Much how the Phillies seem to now think J.P. Crawford's ready to step into the league and be their future shortstop, and he showed enough last year. His defensive metrics and the way he played defense was a lot higher than the ability many fans gave him credit for before coming into the season. They thought J.P. Crawford was the better offensive guy, Freddie was a better defense, which is still true. Phillies Galvis is a better defensive player than J.P. Crawford. Don't get me wrong, we haven't seen enough for us to say that J.P. Crawford's a better defender than Freddie. But he played third, played it phenomenal last year, Crawford, so there's nothing to say why he won't play short great this year and step up and have a good season on the defensive side and then continuing to get better at offense and hitting doubles, being a gap hitter, and getting on base and stealing some bases. I think that's a big reason, too, why the Phillies moved on from Freddie. Freddie was a great defensive player and also added a lot to his offense as time went on. He was able to drive in runs, he hit some homers, and he got on base more, But the big problem with Freddie is the Phillies, in terms of now being a very analytical, metrical team, with Kapler and going in that route with a lot of their guys that they hired, they want to have a team moving forward that has guys that consistently get on base, which, if you look at the numbers from when JP was up, JP actually got on base more than Phillies Galvis for the period of when he was up till the end of the season. And they also want a guy even more than just getting on base, a guy that can steal more bases, because Galvis only stole 41 bases in his past 3 seasons, whereas they think when they can get JP going and being confident, he has the speed enough to steal a good amount of bases per season that will then make him even more dangerous, make our team more dangerous to drive him in right away. Look for J.P. Crawford to likely hit second this year, or maybe first if they think he's ready, but I don't think he'll be ready to lead off yet. And then when Kingery eventually is up here, it'll probably be a Crawford-Kingery combination at the top. And then now, moving on to the acquisition of Carlos Santana, who got a 3-year, $60 million deal per reports from the Phillies. He is a very good option at first base, which now means that it seems like we're going to move Hoskins out to left and someone's going to be an odd man out in the outfield. I hear what fans are coming from with the perspective of Herrera's not the best defender because he gets lackadaisical, has mental errors and stuff of that such. But if I had to pick a guy that was an odd man out in the outfield, I think it's Aaron Altair, due to even though they're all young, he's the eldest of the group. And he is a very solid defender, but if you actually look at defensive metrics and big plays made in terms of defense, Herrera actually makes more of the crazy, long-running defensive plays compared to Altair. But Aaron Altair obviously allows you to hit more home runs and get more RBIs per se on offense, so it's a battle of two things, what you want more. But with the addition of Santana, which adds about at least 25 home runs a season typically, and at least 85 to 95 RBIs, which with the new statistics that show ballpark tendencies and what your stats would look once you move to a better hitting park, which is Citizens, your stats will go up, so they don't necessarily need a guy like Altair anymore, and that's not even the main reason. The main reason I think they're going to keep Herrera and move on from Altair is because Kapler met with Herrera already. Some coaches have met with Herrera already, and they said as long as they can get guys that can get his mindset on track and get him focused and mentally focused 100% day in and day out, he can be a great player in this league because he showed signs of being a very solid player. They also probably are going to want him to run more this year, being once he gets on base, steal more bags. And that'll be an aggressive tendency that our new first base coach will have to implement with him in being Jose Flores. And Jose Flores seems like to be a great signing for a lot of our Spanish players to help. Even Kapler said he wants to have a guy like Thompson can help with a lot of the guys because he's a very experienced guy in relating to players and has had success as a bench coach in many different places. Well, now we have Flores, that's the guy that's supposed to be much like Juan Samuel was on our team, that's supposed to really help the Spanish guy and get in their head and help them speaking their language directly to understand everything the Phillies want from them and to just go out, play your game, don't worry about too much, and don't let your mindset get swayed away from baseball and be more about yourself. This is a team sport, it's a team effort, and that's what they're going to preach to Herrera, most likely. But he has a good track record, Flores, as a first base coach. He's a native of Puerto Rico. He coached the team in the World Baseball Classic and spent 8 years in the Winter League. And he also spent 5 seasons as the minor league infield coordinator of the Chicago Cubs, which he's going to also be the infield coordinator of the Phillies, but I think somebody like him will be able to get Herrera running more, be able to get JP running more, and also moving on now to the signing of Carlos Santana. Having a guy like him that's another Spanish-born player should help guys like Franco. Also, Santana's a switch hitter, which is great to add more switch hitters to keep off balance of pitchers in your lineup. Will help those guys to possibly progress and get better, being able to speak one-on-one with them about how he had some struggles with strikeouts and such, much like Franco did and other things early in his career, and he was able to fix his swing a bit. and get more contact-oriented while still hitting great bombs. Now, granted, Carlos Santana does have decently high strikeout numbers still, but he's definitely improved since the early set of his career, so he should be able to help Mike Franco in that aspect of the game as well, which will be very helpful for the Phillies, because imagine if Franco can go back to how he was before last season and how he was down the stretch. He actually hit like 315 from the month of August to the end of the season. If they can get him doing that, he's going to be a very dangerous player with his power combined with his contact ability. Once they get the contact ability to where they want it, he'll be a gaps hitter that can then hit home runs. And then Santana adds a good amount of wins to your record, because speaking of metrics, if you have a guy that then hits 25 to 30 home runs, which is likely what he'll hit in Philadelphia, then he should be, of course, he will add a good amount of wins to a total. And the Phillies really are buying into the whole analytical side of things, where you can never have enough power on your team. You can never have enough RBI guys on your team, because they are going to get you over the hump and get you to win some of these games. Rhys Hoskins, I think, obviously people have concern with how we're fielding left field. I think being now we gave him a good amount of time in the offseason to work on it, since we made this deal now and not like the end of January or later in the year, or later in the next year's calendar year to sign Santana. He has time to work now with the outfield people, the outfield instructors, work with guys on the team to get better in left, because that's where obviously you're going to see most of Rhys Hoskins this year, being with the signing of Carlos Santana. Now, looking at his wins above replacement, if I can pull them up here, if they didn't move them. Looks like they already moved them to the Phillies. Let me see. They did not yet. Well, anyway, Carlos Santana, statistically, other than his wins above replacement, which I know was a pretty good statistic for him, so he should add more wins to your team, being with his RBIs and home runs total. For his career, he has 174 homers and 587 RBIs. But if you look at his home run total, he had a great 2016. It was 34 in 158 games played. Last year he had 154 with 23 homers. So his stats went down a little bit, but he also typically averaged 27, 18, 20, 27, 19, 34 than 23. 34 was kind of that surreal year where he took off and did great. He's more of a 24 to 30 home run hitter. But again, the ballpark adjustment statistic would show that in Philly he's more of a 30 home run hitter, because they'll take advantage of the ball flying out of there, especially in the summer months when the ball just carries really well. I think it was a good move to add Carlos Santana, as long as we can get Rhys Hoskins fielding well and left, which I don't see why we can't now that we have time. He adds a lot of RBIs and home run potential. Now you have Santana on top of that adds a lot of RBIs and home run potential. Now you got to see what we're going to end up doing with Tommy Joseph, if he's going to remain a backup on the squad to be the backup first baseman, because now he'll be the backup to Santana, and Hoskins will be in left. So Hoskins will probably stay in left, and if Santana doesn't go, you'll be able to put Joseph in the game. So it will be interesting to see what they do there, if Tommy accepts a backup role, or if he want to move on from him and throw him into a trade in the future, because I think Aaron Altair will be the odd man out for the reasons I put before. And if you want to get a little bit something extra for Altair, you might be able to throw Tommy Joseph into the equation, because he still hits a good amount of home runs. He didn't have the best season last year, but you still know you're going to get home runs from him and RBIs. So somebody will add in a better player if you throw him into the deal to sweeten it up a little bit. I think these have been good moves. I think signing the two pitchers are good moves. Signing Santana is a good move to add to our offense. And the first base coach we got is also a good move, and there's obviously going to be more move to come. Probably veteran pitching in terms of starting rotation is what I read we're going to start looking at thoroughly now. So it's an exciting time for the Phillies, and we're also going to make a trade that could, of course, be for a starting pitcher that could come right in and play if they trade Altair, Hernandez, etc. They could have a starting pitcher come in, possibly, that is already ready for the majors or has already been in the majors. So it's going to be exciting to see what they keep doing throughout this offseason. But so far, I have to give credit where credit's due, and Matt Glintock is looking very good in the first offseason. That's really a true test to how well of a GM he's going to be, because past offseasons we weren't trying to compete. We knew we weren't going to be anywhere. We're just making trades to try to get hopeful prospects. Like the Nisek trade, we got 3 prospects, but they're guys that we hope turn into something, that have some upside but are not the greatest guys, but that has worked for us in the past. Like we traded Marlon Byrd for Ben Lively, and Ben Lively's a pretty solid guy to have on your team, especially for a guy that's not even in the league anymore. So we have made trades like that before that worked out, so we'll see how that goes. And now we got Neshek back, which was a very, may I say it, I don't like the Yankees by any stretch, but a Brian Cashman-esque move or a Theo Epstein-esque move, where you trade a guy away, get some stuff for him, but then you bring him back to the club to help your club get even better for the current time. So those were good moves. The Phillies keep making good moves. Going to keep wheeling and dealing, probably add some more pitching, not necessarily in the reliever basis, but in the starting basis, and possibly trade. I heard some starting pitching, younger guys. Eflin could be in a trade or stuff like that to get other guys that we need. So it's going to be interesting to see how this situation of this offseason keeps going. Not situation, but how this great offseason keeps going. This has been Sports Fanatic News. This is Joe Boric. It's a reaction to the offseason moves by the Phillies to this point. There's going to be many more, I predict, so stay tuned. Have a great offseason, everybody. Have a great Friday. Peace out.